on best practices in implementing a performance management software, do's and don'ts. I am Manali Vyas, your host today for this webinar. This session will be for 45 minutes. This webinar is conducted by Synergita. Synergita is a cloud-based performance management and analytics software which helps you focus on employee performance, employee engagement, and employee development. I would like to introduce you to the speakers for this session. The first presenter for today's session is Mr. Suyash Deshpande. He is the lead talent infrastructure at Capita. Suyash is qualified HR professional, PGDM HR, Certified Professional Behaviour Analyst, TTI USA, an engineer with 10 plus years of strategic and techno-functional experience managing full spectrum of human capital services and solutions across industry. Suyash has handled several functional areas in career which include organization restructuring, business partnering, compensation and benefits, talent acquisition and management, HR automation, employee rewards and recognition initiatives, performance management, succession planning, manpower planning and budgeting, employee engagement, HR policy formulation and review, etc. He is equally passionate about academics and has been visiting faculty at SP Jain FMB and Wellinkers Institute of Management, Development and Research. The second presenter for today's session will be Mr. Yoga Mukaya. Yoga has several years of experience in implementing softwares in several enterprises. Currently, he is managing the implementation team for Synergita. He works closely with several customers for automating their employee performance appraisal and continuous feedback activities. He has opportunities to observe what several great place to work companies are doing in employee performance space. Now, before handing over the control to Suyash, here are some housekeeping instructions which I would like to share with you. All phones are set to mute. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat window located beside the presentation panel. We have already received several questions from the registrants which will be answered by the speakers during Q&A session. We will continue to collect more questions during the session as we receive and will try to answer them during today's session. If we are not able to address your queries during the session, you will certainly receive answers via email shortly. Thank you for your participation and enjoy the session. Over to you, Suyash.
For the brief introduction. And group. Okay. So, as we look at the overall business environment today and the way HR function operates, okay, in the fraternity is that it's a classic 80-20 kind of a model which we operate on today, and which is 80% of the time we spend on transactional, tactical processes, and very rarely we focus on things which are of strategic nature. Needless to say, what appears as strategic for HR more often than not does not appear to be that for rest of the business. Okay. When we started on our journey to automate some of the key HR processes, we observed that we were not too different from rest of the industry. We were relying on very labor-intensive, manual processes, relying on the Microsoft tools like Excel and Word, and therefore clearly there was a need for change. Moving on. The need for change is not just in terms of ensuring that we have processes and policies in place, but we need to have processes and policies which really make an impact to the organization and business as a whole. Okay, you can't have an HR function which is focusing on really the compliance part of it, okay, as far as PMS is concerned. What the organization today really looks at is to ensure that they have key analytics coming out of the performance management system, And mind you, when I say analytics, analytics is not MIS or reporting. What the business leaders today really look forward to is to get correlations and patterns which emerge out of data. If most of our time today is spent on the tactical aspects, we rarely get time to focus on these things. Okay, HR as a business partner really needs to focus on aspects like advising business on what the key performance indicators have to be. If the business goals are X, okay, in terms of achieving targets for the year ahead, what is it in terms of the behavioral aspects as well as the indicators which will channelize the efforts of the entire organization towards achieving that goal. And therefore we realized about 2.5 years back that there was a strong need to change the way we do business, the way we look at performance management. So the question really to the audience over here is that, are we really ready to embrace that change? Okay, what I've really noticed in various forums as well as interacting with a lot of HR professionals is that, somewhere we've become very comfortable with doing things the way that were done today. Okay. For instance, we really take pride in all the hard work that's being done, which is rarely noticed by business, for a simple reason that it really doesn't make any impact to them. Okay. And therefore, when it comes to performance management, what will really matter is that we leave some of these tactical things like adherence, things like whether the data is being keyed in the right manner, whether everyone in the system is doing appraisals or not, to an application, and focus on the crux, the core, or the soul of performance management, and which is to ensure that employees get feedback in a timely manner. Okay, really, for me, that is what performance management is all about. You can have more sophisticated IT systems, or you can use basic tools on Excel and Word, but if you're not really able to drive that message across, that it's about having crucial development conversations with employees, okay, you would really have failed as an administrator of performance management. What a system really helps you do is to take care of some of these transactional or tactical aspects so that you can focus on the core of appraisals, the soul of appraisal. When we started our journey in automation, we really want to be clear in terms of what we want to achieve. Okay, so if we really look at performance management as a business case, whether there is really a strong case for that improvement, or are we really packaging an old wine in a new bottle? When we started analyzing the process, we really figured out that there are ample of opportunities, various touch points in the entire performance management cycle, which needs to be addressed. Okay, right from the fact that you have, you ensure that each and every employee within the organization understands his or her goals. Okay, what is expected from him or her for this 6 months or 1 year, which is ahead. Okay, the role changes which happen on a regular basis, whether employees know what is expected from them. Okay, that's the kind of detailing that you can expect from performance management system. Okay. Tracking was one part of it. We realized that we were investing enormous amount of time in terms of tracking appraisals. Okay, and which brings me back to the 80-20 principle. Okay, the appraisal process has to be part of the DNA of an organization. It needs to be given. Okay, you can't really be chasing people to do their appraisals, because if people see value in that entire process, if they really believe that they're going to get an outcome out of it, you wouldn't really need to do chasing for them. Okay, for that matter, if you really ask me, HR as a function, should actually be operating with a single point focus, and that is really to make itself redundant. For a simple reason that if everyone in the organization does his or her job, you really don't need HR to monitor things. Okay, and that was one of our goals, that we wanted to minimize the interventions from HR side through a system and ensure that people really know what is expected out of them, and they see a value out of it, and not just do it from a compliance perspective. The other thing which employees at the ground level really look at from an appraisal system is to really see whether, or rather perceive it to be fair. Okay, we realize that one of the ways of doing that is to introduce a review mechanism. And when I say review mechanism, not just on paper, but ensure that the system really forces you to go through a review mechanism so that employees really see that there is a fair, there's fairness involved in the entire process. Then as far as the reporting tools are concerned, again, that was one of the strong areas which we thought we need to focus upon, for a simple reason that we didn't want it to be merely MIS. What we did was we ensured that the entire normalization process can be replicated onto a system, okay, which means on a real-time basis people should know how they compare vis-a-vis the normalized distribution which has been agreed with the organization. All said and done, no matter how complex the system you build, okay, there has to be buy-in, and that buy-in can happen only when people see that the system is flexible and easily configurable to really react to the needs of business. Okay, with these key aspects, okay, we really believe that there was a strong case for process improvement, and if you really compare it with what's happening in your organization today, if these questions are not being addressed by your existing processes or existing tools, I strongly believe that you need to focus on that, because this will really help you to get your attention back onto feedback and recognition. If these aspects are taken care of, then you can really focus on doing things at the right time. For instance, there's really no value in providing a feedback or recognition to an individual 1 year or 2 years down the line. It needs to happen instantly. The system should be capable enough to record those feedbacks and suggestion, the feedback mechanisms, okay, and allow you to play it back to the employee. And that's the crux of it all. So if these 5 pointers are really taken care of, you can focus on the core of it. Moving on. So as far as the first part of this webinar is concerned, it really, this slide really summarizes it all. For us, the need for change was very clear. Okay, the system has to be easy to use. It should allow me to really have those feedback conversations. Okay, to begin with, force me to have those feedback conversations. Till gradually it becomes a DNA. Okay, it becomes part of my culture. I should be able to really cull out analytics and reporting tools, and at the end of the day, this application cannot really operate in silo, and it is integrated with your core ERP systems, and that is what really addressed our key concerns at that point of time. Now to the second part of this webinar, where we really look at what are some of the things which you need to look at as post-launch action. Okay, so till this point, okay, presuming that you really made up your mind, you are going ahead with an application and you are at an advanced stage of implementing it. Okay. What you really need to be clear about is what is it that I am going to address. What are those key aspects which need to be focused upon, okay, which people should start doing after they pick up a new application. And for us it was very clear. We wanted the entire process online. We want to ensure that each and every team member knew what the goals were, what was expected from him or her. Okay. We wanted strong documentation. We want to ensure that people justified their ratings. Okay. And we wanted to look at the dashboards and reports so that we could advise management on the way forward. Having said that, it was really not about the IT part of it, and therefore we wanted people to continue to do the face-to-face discussions, because the system had capability to have conversations or record conversations in the application online. Okay, we didn't want to have those face-to-face feedback discussions being taken away. And of course, because it's an online system, an employee should have access to his or her KPIs, and those KPIs need to be monitored on a regular basis. Needless to say, we want to stop all the appraisal forms and word formats which were being used, or the age-old mechanisms of doing appraisals, and these were really the charter for us as far as performance management is concerned. So when you're looking at launching an application, it would be worthwhile to spend some time, go back to the drawing board and understand what are some of those things which you want to start doing, what is it that you're going to continue, because that's really core to your organization, and what is it that you're going to stop doing. And when you have that clarity, it has to be backed by a very strong launch campaign. Okay? Because it's a change which really needs to be communicated in a manner that the organization understands the magnitude of it. Okay? And therefore, in my view, for us, it was a blockbuster opening. It was a red carpet arrival. we were going to change the way organization was looking at performance management. And it could be worthwhile for you to connect with your communication team and launch an entire campaign, have those roadshows and cascades, so that the employee at the last run really gets the message loud and clear. So with this, I come to the next part, which kind of summarizes the key learnings that we had as part of the entire design and launch. And I think now it's been close to 3 years since the launch. We almost in the 6th cycle, and we've had some learnings. We've had certain course corrections, over these 3 years, and therefore over the next few minutes, I'll quickly summarize what were our key learnings. Okay. Every organization will have its own learnings, but I guess you may draw some cues out of what we've gone through. Yeah, so to begin with, when you're really looking at a change of this nature, you need to focus on priority and not priorities. Okay. I mean, if you really ask me, till 19th century, there was nothing called priorities. The word priorities itself came into existence over the last 100 years, which in itself means that you really need to look at what's the most pressing and foundational issue that you're addressing through this application. Okay. I've heard a lot of HR professionals, using the language, and let's go ahead, let's do it, and then, over a period of time, we'll see what needs to be done, what needs to be corrected. But I have a very different view. My view is that in HR, we need to embrace the behavior that we need to do it right the first time. Okay, you can't really, because that is what's going to drive credibility. Okay, you really need to focus on each and every intervention that's being launched in the organization, with the understanding that what I'm going to do now is going to be the best thing. Okay, that's the best time and the best effort. Okay, because remember that business has reached a stage where it no longer believes in giving second chance, and therefore you need to make an impact, and you need to make that impact right. Okay. As an HR professional, I've always believed that we need to assume role of a driver and not a facilitator. Okay, a facilitator kind of really, gives you a leeway to, step back when things go wrong. But when you are looking at a change of this magnitude, you really need to be the internal consultant. Okay, you may connect with an external consultant or a vendor when it comes to performance management improvement, or any other process that you are introducing, to the new process that you're introducing for your organization. But believe me, your role is that of an internal consultant, because no one understands the organization better than you, and that's how you have to drive any change. When we did this intervention, one thing which I was very clear on is that go live is non-negotiable. When you commit to the organization that you're going to deliver something, okay, better ensure that you stick to that plan, because that again connects back to the point on credibility. Okay, believe me, we had close to about 3 months or even lesser than that to launch an application and bring in that change. Okay. But once we made up our mind, once we were clear of what is expected and what is it that we're going to address, the entire team, okay, whether within our organization or with the consultant, okay, we worked towards that objective. We really looked at what is that relationship between time and scope. Okay, it's okay to have a scope, okay, which really talks to the timeline at hand. Okay, but ensure that go live is negative. The other aspect is, often operate in silos. Okay, we operate from our own ivory towers, and that, when you're looking at a change of this nature, has to really be thrown outside window, because there are multiple people involved. Okay, there are project management teams, there's IT who understands systems better. You have your internal policies, guidelines to be followed, and therefore you can't really operate in silos. You have to take every suggestion, every feedback into account. Get in key people onto your side when you are introducing a change of this nature. Take that first step. Okay, I strongly believe that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step, and therefore a lot of times we just keep analyzing, get into an analysis paralysis kind of a mode. Take that step, okay, because it is necessary, it's important. Once you identify that, today 80% of my time I'm spending on tactical and transactional aspects, which in the long run are not really going to materialize, the decision is made, okay. So no matter what analysis you do, no matter what study you do, I think you need to really take that first step, okay. What we need to factor in HR is that in another 5 years from now, okay, there is adequate research which indicates that most of the things which we do today are going to get automated or going to be sort of outsourced to a robotic process. So what's really going to be core to being human is what going to be retained with us, and that's about taking those initiatives, taking those decisions, okay. And that's where I say that, don't get into the analysis paralysis mode. It's a necessary step which needs to be taken, and please go ahead and do that, okay. And then work towards ensuring that you achieve the objective. Okay. The other thing is you need to have very strong review mechanisms while implementing a change of this nature. Okay. And therefore having those continuous calls and project meetings with your consultant really matter. That really ensures that you're on track with regards to go live. Finally, the history matters. Okay, you are an internal consultant. You know what's best that's going to work for your organization. Often, the best tools and best applications fail because you're not able to manage the perceptions or the expectations of people. Okay, tackle that at the first instance itself. Communicate with people. Okay, communicate with your key stakeholders, especially the difficult ones. Get them onto your side, because post go live, what's really going to matter is how the application is perceived as. Okay, even before anyone gets into the merits and demerits of that. So manage that, and manage that well. And obviously involve people, involve technical teams wherever required. Okay, do not really get caught in the fact that we are HR and we know everything and anything that's there. So therefore involve right people at right juncture. I can't really explain the importance of communication, okay, and especially in today's era, which is also very infamously tagged as the age of incompetence, okay, and therefore your system really has to be foolproof. And when I say foolproof, it's FOOL, foolproof. Okay, you really need to communicate, okay, even if that means over communication, but ensure that there is continuous dialogue with all the stakeholders, especially the difficult ones prior to the launch. Get them onto your side, have those focus group discussions, hear them out, hear what's their challenge. And more importantly, when you do your UATs, okay, ensure that that's the final chance which you have prior to go live, and therefore involve these stakeholders in the testing phase, okay. That way you will be giving them a heads up, and when you actually launch the application, you would really have these guys on your side, okay. At least it will provide you an opportunity to get these guys onto your side. In nutshell, if you ask me, implementing a performance management system is a big step. It's a big decision which needs to be taken. It's important in today's era, and you need to really make it large for your organization. You need to create buzz. Okay, you need to ensure that you have continuous monitoring mechanisms to really look at how it's being perceived as. Make sure that you're part of various forums and review meetings post launch. Here, people ensure that there are no grave points about the application, and just be there, work overtime to ensure that right message is being passed. Also, do make sure that post first cycle, whatever are the learnings, okay, be quick to adopt. Bring in small changes which have big impact. For example, when we launched the application, okay, one of the feedback which we received was that, while you were expecting us to do documentation, can that be made more easier? We introduced something as basic as spell check in the application, okay, and that had huge impact as far as user experience was concerned. The normalization check which we keyed in was viewed very, very positively by the leadership team. So remember, these are small things which are going to have a huge impact. Low-hanging fruits which you really need to latch on to ensure that you identify those opportunities and and make the most of it. Okay, so that's the key messaging as far as implementation of performance management is concerned. In nutshell, if you really ask me, if I have to summarize what I mentioned over the last few minutes, okay, we really need to transform the HR function, the way people look at HR function. And that's really going to happen when we come out of the transactions and compliance mode and start delivering interventions which create larger impact to the business as a whole. Remember that while we see ourselves as HR managers, the organization doesn't look at us as HR managers, they look at us as business managers. So whether in finance, marketing, operation, everyone has to have the same goal. Your goals in HR can't be different from what the organization expects. Performance management is key to the functioning of an organization, and that's the area which you need to tackle. That's the area which needs to be managed first, okay, so that the transactional operational aspects are taken care of. You focus on analytics, which is drawing key correlations and patterns which help business take critical decisions about where it's going to operate over the next few months, few years. You also ensure that you create a lot of buzz as far as the application is concerned. Ensure that you communicate, have a date which is committed to the organization, and make sure that you honor that date. Also ensure that you get your key stakeholders by your side, involve them, involve all the teams, do not operate in silos. And most important, as a concluding point, know what your priority is. And I again would want to emphasize that it is priority and not priorities. So thank you. Thanks everyone for being a patient listener.
Thank you, Suyash. Next is yoga session. However, before yoga starts, I would like to request all the participants to post their questions in the chat window. After Yoga completes his session, we will take all the questions. Over to you, Yoga.
Thank you, Manali. Good evening, everyone. Let me quickly introduce Synergita here. Synergita, what Synergita is? Synergita is a continuous employee performance management, development, and engagement software. It currently helps in building a world-class company culture driven by an employee recognition. And if you see, we have more than 40,000 users. I mean, the employees managed on Synergita across 70 plus customers across the globe. If you see the holistic view of the performance review process, starts with the goals and achievements, and then continuous feedback and recognitions, and then check-ins and annual reviews. Let me quickly jump into the do's and don'ts. Starts with the do's. You just keep your performance management process very, very simple and easy to complete. The system should be very intuitive. Design a meaningful workflow and keep it very simple. Keep your feedback forms really simple and easy to fill, and less number is the key. More the workflows, more the feedback forms, it will invite troubles. If you have to make sure that you do right data mapping, which employee is going to get which workflow and which feedback form he is going to get. And this is really important. If we do not have the data ready, the data mapping, then we will end up in trouble. Involve end users in the process and the system design. See, if you see, as a HR, we discuss a lot and then we design a process. But we have to involve the end users, then only we will be able to see how effectively they are going to use the system. And this will definitely help in getting better buy-in across all the organization. Take the end users, employees and managers, define the rating guidelines, competency and goals required for a particular designation or a department. Do a proper data validation before launching the feedback cycle. Make sure that your employee data is proper and clean, right from manager mapping, designation mapping, and please make sure that it is captured properly. Once you launch it, if the data is not correct, it will invite troubles, as I said before. So please focus on the proper data validation. The other focus, your focus should be mainly on training and communication. Do as many training and orientation on performance management process, not necessarily on the software side. Communicate effectively about the importance of using the software for this process. Publish a schedule and stick to the schedule. Train your HR on the process, system functionalities, etc. They should own the process end of the day. And let me quickly talk about the don'ts. As I told you, like the process should be really simple. Like, do not complicate the process. Believing that every element of the performance discussion needs to be captured on the appraisal form. If the form is too long, it will put off employees from completing it properly and will distract from the conversation. Take a thumb rule. If the manager has to take more than 15 minutes to fill the feedback form for an employee, you are not going to get good results. And this is true. We may not end up in typing lot many things for an individual. And don't try to introduce new things at the cycle time. This will confuse people. Like for example, if you have not practiced any of the 360-degree feedback, do not introduce this at the time of reviews. You should give at least, I would say, like a quarter, like a 3 to 6 months of a time to deliberate it and get people understand the concept. If you introduce newly, because the system supports, it may not really go well. Not because of the tool, more because it is going to be very new to them. And when we introduce a performance review system into the organization, do not see that as a one-time exercise. Now, what we need to think is like we are creating a foundation here. We are building a foundation. Based on this foundation, the next year review also will happen. After that, we have to see multiple reviews on this. So we have to create a base before we do this exercise. And do not allow few people to get away from the process or the system. Do not bend the rules. I'm pretty sure that like in front of the system, all are equal. For example, like if people are not completing the process in the system, do not release their salary revisions. If required, I think like we have to go back and take the stick. We have to use the stick. So I'm going to simply talk about how the performance appraisal or the review process can happen in Synergita. We can have the simple process wherein you can set the goals and starts with the self-evaluation, and then the peer and manager feedback and recommendation can happen. And that should be an approval from the department head or a HR. After that, based on the feedback, the one-on-one meeting can happen between the manager and the employee, and appraisal paper distribution and employee acceptance can happen. If you really see how to set the goals, like the SMART goals can be defined during the beginning of the year. If you see, like we can set n number of goals at the very beginning of the year. You just set the SMART goals for each employee, and you can update and track the goals on periodic basis in Synergita. And you can also analyze the achievements. You can keep track of it. And it is now, like as I said, like during the beginning of the year, we are going to set the goals, and you can review all these goals anytime during the year. My goals may get changed at any time during the year, and I can very well go and change my goals. Once I complete the goals, I can add the new goals. That is very, very simple. Now, like if you see, like in case if you have like some pending items, how do I'm going to track it? Like all you need to do is just log into the system and then just check your action items. That is going to show how many items are pending currently, and you can just go with the pending items, and then you can complete your task within just 2 clicks, I would say. And as I told you, like during the review process, like when I'm going to provide the feedback, I can also review the goals, whether the goals are achieved or not, or where they are progressing currently, and I can see all those things. And I can see how the self has rated themselves, and as a co-manager, what kind of a feedback they have given. And I can refer all this feedback, and I can take that as a reference, and I can provide a very good feedback for an individual. And you can also review not only the goals, the competencies can be also reviewed, as well as I said before, you can review the comments from the co-manager as well as from the self. Based on that, you can provide the feedback and the rating. The score calculations can happen inside the system, and it is going to, once the review process is completed, it is going to show you the final overall score. and also you can see individual score as a self, primary manager, and the co-manager. And if you see that from the analytics perspective in Synergita, you can check the status of a current ongoing feedback cycle. I would say like as soon as you log in, you end up in getting this page. So the dashboard widget wherein you will be able to see from the dashboard how many are them in which state currently they are into. And you can track them, and you can very well track them and close in case of any pending items has to be done. It can be very well tracked. And you have the complete consolidated reports available inside system. So we have like the pre-set up like reports are almost like 30 to 35 reports available with us. You can get help of these reports, and in case if you want to generate any kind of a report, you can generate it very simply. And we also have like the salary revision letter distribution process. It is very, very simple. All you need to do is export the employee rating into the Excel and do the salary computation in Excel, and import the rating and salary revision into Synergita. Create the templates and just associate the template, the employee along with the employee rating and the salary revision. All you need to do is just publish it to employees, and employee accepts it, and they'll be able to see it on the system anytime. So overall, if you see the entire Synergita, you see like know your employee from entry to exit, and the performance appraisal review process can happen, and the talent development process also will happen. And the side by side, if you see the 360-degree feedback can happen, the continuous feedback process, the rewards and recognition can happen. The continuous feedback process wherein like a peer or co-manager or a co-worker, like in case if I want to give any kind of a feedback to an individual, it could be an area of improvement or it could be an appreciation. I can directly provide the feedbacks. We need not to have a review process in order to happen. All you need to do is enable this module, and you can continuously talk to your peers and co-workers, and you can provide your continuous feedback. And as we lastly talked about the appraisal letter distribution, that is also like that can happen inside Synergita. Overall, if you see, automate whatever we are going to automate, it is going to save the time and effort and reduce the manual errors, and we can focus on employee development and engagement. If you see working in cadence, like as I told you about the continuous feedback and the goals and the check-ins and then annual reviews, all this will happen in one line, and then like it is going to happen on a continuous basis. We are not going to do it like on a periodic basis here, except the annual reviews. Anytime you can do the check-in, and the goals can be managed very well, as I told you, and it can be tracked and it can be managed very well. And as a summary, if you see, like all I'm telling is like just keep your performance management process just simple and easy to complete, and just design the meaningful workflow. Keep it very, very simple, and involve the end users in the process under the system design. I would say this is going to help you in terms of a better buy-in inside your organization. I'm pretty sure this happens, and we have seen in many organizations. And do a proper data validation before launch the feedback cycle. Make sure that like this data is pretty important, because they have to get the exact form what they have to get. So the designation mapping or the manager mapping, whatever it is, like this mapping should be done and validated in a proper way. And the training part, like as I told you, like you guys have to concentrate or like you have to train your people in terms of the performance management process. As I told you, like you might have got that feeling now, like how Synergita, it is very simple to use. All you need to do is just 2 to 4 clicks, you'll be able to complete all your pending tasks. So as I told you, like the training part should happen only on the process side, not on the product side. And publish a schedule, and we have to stick to the schedule. And because we have to be very sure about the process and the schedule. Otherwise, we will end up in dragging it for quite some time. We may have to complete it in 2 weeks, but it will drag to you like around, like you may end up in doing it for 3 to 4 weeks. And the main important thing is like we have to train our HR on the process and the system functionalities and all other administrative part. And they should own the process at the end of the day. And they need to know in and out of the system. And I'm pretty sure like if we do all these things, definitely we can have the better performance management system within our organization, and we can do a lot better. And we called it as a people magic. Like definitely we bring this people magic into your organization. And that is all, guys, for this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. And signing off, Yoga here. Thank you.
Thank you, Suyash and Yoga, for sharing your experiences with us. We have received several questions, and now we will pose these questions to Suyash and Yoga. Well, first question is for Suyash. Which is the most important factor that prompted the need for a PMS software?
Okay, so the most important factor really ties down to what you believe an HR function can do for the organization, okay, and which is beyond the operational and transactional or tactical tasks. Okay, we could sense the pain, the amount of back and forth that was happening in a manual system. Okay, I mean, even simple things like at the end of the cycle, the amount of rating reconciliations, that used to happen, and how it used to feed into the comp database, leading to eventual leakages. Okay, and that's a very basic example to cite. Okay, but that really forced us to think if whether that is how it should be, whether that is where the HR should really be investing its time and effort. Okay, and whether we as an organization are getting best value out of the HR team. And then when we analyze this process very closely, we realize that there were a lot of aspects, a lot of processes which could really be automated, and without human intervention, so that our business partner teams could really focus on what's core to the process, ensuring that the feedback conversations happen in the right sense, the development conversations happen. Okay, the data which gets culled out of the system can really result in showing trends and patterns to the business, which will help them take key calls. Okay, so that was really the core of it. Okay, that we want to stop spending 80% of our time on transactions, and rather enhance that 20% to an 80% and get more value out of the entire process.
Thank you, Suyash. Next question is for Yoga. As an implementation specialist, what is the biggest challenge you have faced with any particular case?
Um, yeah, I would say like many challenges, like to take it to consider this, like see we have like multiple options, like if you see, like we have various modules inside Synergita. So this particular customer, like they're really interested in all the modules, and they wanted to implement all at once. And I believe like we discussed about the tones, like because this is the first time they are introducing the system, and they wanted to introduce everything at one time. So this we have suggested them like not to have everything at once, and instead like we can go by step, like, but they are very stubborn in taking the process everything at once, and they launched it. And the thing what happened was like employees could not like they'll not be able to complete it on time, because it's a completely dragged the time, and it almost took like a month to complete the entire process. So I would say like this is one of the challenge wherein currently, like because it is available in the tool, they tend to they just wanted to use and roll it out to the employees. But it is not the case. Like we have to settle down with a new set of process, with a new set of tools, and then maybe like we can go for the next set of the modules or the exercise.
Okay, thank you, Yoga. Another question is for Suyash. How did you train your employees to use the new PMS software?
We really did it in two parts. Okay, and that's critical. Okay, that's really important how you train your employees. And what we did was prior to launch, we roped in a few specialist stakeholders, and gave them a glimpse of what the application was. Okay, sort of heard them out, because we knew these were very carefully chosen individuals, because we really knew that these were the guys who were opinion makers as far as the organization is concerned. Okay. We heard them out. We sort of ensured that these guys became the champion as far as our cause is concerned. Okay. Immediately post launch, okay, we along with these set of people then introduced a concept called as ComSpop. Okay. Being a very lean team, we were sure that we wouldn't really be able to cover the employee till till the last level, last chain, and therefore we want to get as many comms pops to our side as possible, and therefore we conducted multiple sessions with these guys to ensure that they understood the system in and out. Okay, these also included the business partner team members. Okay, because they obviously would have a much better connect with the floor as compared to a centralized or a specialist team like ours. Okay, having equipped these guys, almost close to 100 odd people, within the organizations, we then went to each and every location, had road shows and cascades to show them the basics and fundamentals of performance management, and we really drove the message that it's a simple application, okay, which is in short really help them improve the way they're doing their appraisals. Okay. We also knew for a fact that while no matter how much training or cascades you do, given that it was the first cycle, there are going to be questions, there are going to be queries, there are going to be certain glitches, and therefore we ensured that the entire central team was on standby to really address. So in short, we almost became like a contact center within the organization to address queries of these employees. Okay. Uh, Managers were equipped. The new employees were taken through the tool. So we designed uh, trainings for different people, different groups, okay, to drive the same message, but in a manner which they understand the best. Okay. If I have to tie it back to the presentation again, it really boiled down to communicating what was expected, okay, what they had to start doing, what they had to continue doing, and what they had to stop doing. Okay, so that's how we ensured that we covered almost 100% of the organization in a span of a week or so.
Okay, thank you, Suyash. I guess this another question is also for you. Was the software able to adapt to your existing performance management process?
Okay, so there are when you really embark on the journey of automation, one of the easiest pitfall, okay, is to design the software which exactly replicates your current process, okay, and which is what I wouldn't say consciously, but fortunately we avoided doing, okay, because we took this opportunity to not just automate the existing process, but question the process in itself to see if it could be better. Okay, so automation was not the only objective, but also we want to ensure that the process became far more simpler, far more meaningful, and it really touched the core of the end user, which is the employee. Okay. So if you really ask me, uh, if you really operate from the premise that you're going to automate the process as is basis, it's really going to be difficult. Because there are ground level challenges, there are certain practical aspects of which need to be factored in, and therefore rather than just replicating as is, if you're able to analyze the current process and make it more leaner, use this opportunity to really what most of the organizations really look at is that this has been happening for a while, this has been happening for ages, and therefore we need to continue doing that. Okay. Break that myth. Okay. really, if you go by the classic OD definitions of, freeze, unfreeze, and freeze kind of a model, okay, the first thing which you need to question is the existing process in itself. Okay. Question that process, question that status quo, use the opportunity of automation to do that. Okay. And then, make the process far more leaner, and then see what all you can automate and how best you can automate. Okay. That would really ensure that you draw some meaning out of this entire exercise.
Thank you, Suyash. Another question is for Yoga. How can we consolidate the SAP into Synergita PMS? Also, for salary revision letter distribution, data are in SAP payroll. Is it possible in your system?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Like we can integrate Synergita with SAP, and definitely we can talk each other, and we can pull the relevant data, and we can distribute the letters. Yeah, that is definitely possible.
Thank you, Yoga. Another question is also again for you. Is it advisable to involve the department heads from the beginning of the implementation process?
Yeah. Uh, yes. What I would suggest here is like not only the department heads, like see all the relevant stakeholders should be part of it. Like at the very beginning of the implementation, wherein like we design the process and the workflow. So I think like we have to spend more time and we have to involve like many stakeholders, like as many as possible. I think that is really going to help. As I told you, like the buy-in inside your organization, that will definitely happen. And yes, definitely you can do that.
Okay, thank you, Yoga. I think we're running out of time, so we'll have to wind up this session. Thank you all for attending this session. Hope you all had a good and informative session. If you have any questions, please feel free to send the email at info@synergita.com, and we will send the recorded version of this webinar to all of you along with your Q&As. Thank you to all once again, and thank you, Yoga and Suyash, for sharing your experiences.
Thank you.
Thank you.